Okay.
Do they both go red?
Yep, they're both red. So we are now recording, and we'll come into the show. So everybody out there in the international world, here we are on KUHSdenver.com, 360 Performance Talk. We'll be right with you in just a second and giving you real information as soon as I can.
And then were you going to just turn the music off and
yeah, I'm just going to just blend like I did before.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm already recording.
Start
People?
No. He's gonna be like, you're doing what? No. Here. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor and give a shot. At any time, you only be excited. I don't like it.
Okay, Tony, you can put these headphones on. Am I caught down there?
I don't know if it'll reach. They're hung up on. It's like they're being pulled to the max down here.
Want to go under?
Let Henry take a
Oh
look.
yeah. Can you go under?
William. Okay, go ahead and pull on it. I'm good.
That's better. There we go.
I'm just going to go into it.
You're going to be just like the rock stars. You can get right into the screen.
Yeah. Like right about there.
Yeah. What's your first name?
Susie.
Susie?
John.
John. Susie and John and Tony. All right.
Yeah. My wife is gonna shake her head.
Did you get to go live, Lois?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm live over here, so. Not exactly sure what it's doing here.
All over this.
I can't get audio on it.
There we go. On the Mevo. Okay. Were you stream anyway, right?
Yeah, you're streaming.
Yeah.
Right in. I'll just turn this off for a second and I'll come back up.
Okay. We don't have a lot of noise in here. We can leave that door open if you
Yeah.
want.
That's what
Close to this. Right about there.
Yeah, that'll good.
And don't
If you
forget to
project
turn-
from there, that'd be fine.
Okay.
You're good.
And you're up already.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they know we're talking, so he's talking. 2, and I'm up. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to pot us down a little bit, get ready for the show. You're at listening to KUHSdenver.com over the great sounds of Run DMC, Walk This Way. That brings back some memories of high school, let me tell you. That's how old I am. We're joined today by the Westminster Fire. Oh, look there.
No, check yours.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. Oh, it's I'm so excited about today because we're talking to the Westminster Fire Department about some, just the wonderful nature of being part of serving the community is fun to think about that, but at the same time you have to think about the job that you do. And I was part of seeing the job that those wonderful first responders do last weekend on Saturday, and it seems like there's calendar events that connect with these happenings in the neighborhood. It was Cinco de Mayo on that Saturday when the hen mallard wanted to go across the street with her brood of 10 and didn't quite make it. She did, but they didn't. And neighbors and friends called the Westminster Fire Department to show up and help preserve the community. That's our theme for today, serve and preserve. So we're here on a number of different platforms. We're on Facebook Live, on the on my Facebook page, 360 Mindset. You can also check us out on KUHSdenver.com, where we've got the Ustream feed coming in all across the 50 states as well as internationally. We've got people from Brazil looking in on us today. We've got people from Europe. My friend Peter over there in England, where it's time to have a little bit of the suds, as they say over there. They're a few hours ahead of us, so enjoy your time over there. But we're coming up to Mother's Day, so I thought, my goodness, we saw the hen mallard. She's going across the street, and I'm thinking, we captured this event, got this great moment. It's Mother's Day this Sunday. What better time to have a show about serve and preserve?
Absolutely.
So welcome to Tony Calabrese or Calabrese.
Calabrese.
Okay, because that Italian, it's always strange. It depends whether you put the E or the A or the C or the H, all that kind of stuff. And then we've got Susie to his immediate right. And I don't know if you can, yep, there she is on the camera right there. And then John, on purpose, is hidden way over in the corner. So you see his hand right there? Yeah, that's John. Okay, so, and you can tell that John's the real voice box of the whole group here. that was a joke, yeah.
This is going to cost us a lot of dessert, especially me.
Yeah.
This is going to cost me.
And then he's going to make me make it. So
Yes. Yeah, I'll buy it and she'll make it. Yeah.
Hey, as long as you get a system.
That's a golden rule.
Yeah. And
in the media, you buy dessert.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, what you're talking about is another performance issue, but we won't get into a lot of detail. But that's the premise of the show here. It's 360 Performance Talk. We talk about different ways to get prepared to perform, which is a daily basis for you guys, and a career effort to train to be prepared. And we're going to talk a little bit about that using our mallard duck as a metaphor for us today, in preparation for Mother's Day. So Tony, when you get ready for a call comes in, is your preparation different based on what the call says it's going to be?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We always say that there's 3 types of calls. The one that is phoned in, the one you're dispatched to, and the one that you show up on scene to. Because, whoever calls in, they give their information.
Yeah.
Dispatch relays it, and then en route, they'll give us additional information.
Gotcha.
So while we were driving to the incident, I was getting additional information over the radio.
Yeah.
So just kind of forming a plan, you get mentally prepared of, okay, what could we possibly come across? What are we going to need for equipment, resources?
Yeah.
And that goes for just any call, not just this one.
So you're listening to the call. It's coming in.
Yeah.
Mallard, hen, ducklings in the sewer. You like to have special gloves?
No.
What? You just gotta go, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a chuckle. It's like, okay, well, let's see what we have. Because it's not the first time.
Was this the first of the season? I heard some talk amongst the guys that this might have been the first of the season for some of them.
For us, yeah. I don't know if you guys have heard of any other crews.
Yeah, animal rescue has not been.
Right.
Sorry, animal management.
Correct. Right.
But
we don't always get the call.
Yeah.
It's more about since the situation.
Sorry, animal management. There I am.
Oh, there you are.
I got to turn down my volume, I think.
Yeah.
There we go. So, and it's delayed. So when you I'm hearing myself. I have to ignore it. So when you go out on a call, but there's basic preparation that you do. That it's regardless of the call, it's the same prep.
Yeah, well, like Tony was saying, there's 3 different calls that you go on. There's also 3 different brains that you use. So you've got the neocortex, so you're using all that
She used a
skill set.
3-syllable
Yeah,
word.
I did.
She did.
Oh, good.
So you're
That's
using
great.
the skills that you are trained to do.
Yeah.
Everything that we train every day, those are all stored in that neocortex. So that's stuff that we use. And then we've got the amygdala, the emotional brain. So that's when sometimes that'll kick in.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a mother and ducks, and something bad were to happen, that amygdala kicks in.
We had a
That's the
fun
emotional brain.
event. We're going to talk about what little ducklings,
Yeah.
Curious George in the sewer was doing. You mentioned something that I talk about a lot there, Susie, the amygdala.
Yeah.
And that, just guys, we have to know this. The amygdala doesn't mature as fast for us as it does for the female,
Right.
which is why women get known to be the planners, the attention to detail people.
Which is why there's a diverse crew here.
Yeah, and I love that. I have a number of clients that are very, very active in those movements. But that being said, then, in the preparation side of things, is there a little bit of reminding of people because you know the differences of each of the participants in the truck hey, we're going to go out on a duck call.
Mhm.
It's a turn of a phrase there, duck. Never mind.
Right.
So you're out on the call, and yet there's might be somebody going, really? Like you had a big young man in the truck with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah,
a
we did.
big- I mean, he's big, you know.
6'7".
Yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
and he's thick.
He's a teddy bear.
Yeah. Well, I looked at some of his tattoos and went, really? Anyway, but you have these different personalities,
Mhm.
and is there any mental preparation, mindset adjustments going on in the truck as you get, like, don't forget to do this, remember that we're on this kind of a call.
Absolutely. So one of the so we got the additional on the way there, and one of the first things I did was call for animal management, because we're going, we know basically what the situation is gonna be, but it's like, well, I'm not an expert in this. Who's the expert that we can rely on?
Who is
Animal
the-
management.
Who is the expert, really?
Animal management, not me.
The animal management.
Right.
So I'm there and I'm watching. I'm
Right.
trying to put my Iowa farm boy mentality on the plate, right?
Yeah.
I said, let's get a towel or something and just dump
Yes.
it over the hen's head or something,
Right.
because she was flying away.
Right.
I stepped back and just watched her run around.
Oh yeah, that's all it was. And
She was about ready to crawl under the tree to go get her. And
I mean, we have the mindset that you have a chuckle, like, okay, this is going to be
Yeah.
fun and funny, but it transitions to a more serious talk of, don't forget safety.
Yeah.
You always, doesn't matter, because from what you saw, we still had active traffic.
yeah, well, yeah,
We had bystanders with children,
great segue, because
We
I was going to
had
talk about that. That's,
sewer lids coming off.
Yeah.
So my concern was not only the safety of my crew,
Yeah.
the safety of all the bystanders around,
Yeah.
the children. It's like, keep the kids away from the open sewer. I don't need people falling in.
yeah.
Safety of basically everybody.
So you're involved with the ducklings, right? So
Right.
you and I walked across the street. We're kind of
Uh-huh.
adjusting cones, and you went over to see what the hen was doing. I look up the street, and people, instead of looking at what we were doing,
Uh-huh.
started to turn around
Yeah.
and go someplace else, but turned around in front of oncoming traffic that already turned right to go up the hill.
Right.
And I went, no. So I just stepped out on the curb and said, come on, people, just
Right.
come on down slow and work through the
Mhm.
work through the traffic and everything. So it's amazing how the animals seem to have responded better to our nonverbals than
Right.
the human beings.
Sure. But from what you saw, I'm sure you saw it, we still put traffic cones out.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That's just,
Well,
it's still an active roadway, and we still have to keep safety in mind.
And I want to make sure I don't forget to thank you guys for today in particular, because it's a big training day for you. You've got a big drill going on today. So I really appreciate what Cassandra Shutt did, along with your chiefs and everything getting this happen. It's just another example of how the pride of Westminster citizens should be in their first responders, in particular their fire department, and how they respond to not just serving the community in the way they need to, but also making sure that you respond in ways that most people wouldn't expect you to do. So I really appreciate you doing this and taking the time out of your busy schedule today to take that on. Now, that being said, we're about ready to finish up the first segment of my show, the mindset segment. But the one question I have for you guys in that area is, when your preparation, you go there, you're thinking, okay, I got the call,
Right.
and we're prepared to a level we need to be. In this case, it wasn't exactly rocket science, right? If things change,
Mhm.
what do you do to get prepared for dealing with change? Are there certain drills, certain things you do in the training regiments you go through? I mean, look at fire is fire. It's the most unpredictable force on the planet, in my opinion. So that's enough probably training to get prepared for a lot of different changes.
Sure.
But are there certain things you guys make sure you re-emphasize over and over again to be adaptive and be able to adjust to change when it's the unexpected?
Yeah, I'd say every time we train, it's not just the same method, same tools, same everything. It's what we call different tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
But it's just for every incident. But like I said earlier, I'm going to preach safety. Safety is always kept in mind, but we always, our trucks are big toolboxes.
Yeah.
So we have a
Oh,
variety
yeah.
of tools. We're all different in size, different mindset, different in training.
Is
So-
everybody expected to take on the basics? I mean, even Susie in the medical side of things, as well as, because you're taking care of patients on the line,
Right.
and
So,
then if something goes down, you might have to step in, right?
Right. So we're all interchangeable. Like today, I'm the firefighter on the engine. So we all kind of work together.
Yeah.
So it is everybody's input counts. So when things change, sometimes it's like, hey, I've got this idea. Let's go this route, and we're paying attention to
Gotcha.
our crew and what our crew's thoughts and ideas are.
Who makes the final decision? Oh, never. I just.
Susie. We tell the captain that he does, but
Yeah.
you know,
Let's-
we
I
just
gotcha.
yeah, we
No,
just we make him feel good. Like,
Happens
oh, yes,
at my house,
yes,
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just don't put out fires.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
You do.
not.
Yeah, just in a different way. Yeah.
Think about that a minute.
We're all married. We know.
So let's talk about the national exposure as much as you can relate to that. Is what you guys do patterned after what is typical in fire departments at the city level? I mean, you're obviously you're getting updates and training and manuals or whatever comes to you in a communication, and maybe even going out to other places and getting training at a local or national or regional level. So are there standards that fire departments want to make sure they examine and take care of?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
what are some examples that somebody, like for example, you showed up, you guys moved the truck to a place where it was off to the side, put out cones. You know, the moms that were there, which I thought they were great. They stopped their cars and flashing lights and all that. And I was more worried about the kids than I was anything else. But
Yes.
are there certain standards that you guys as a nation? So if I go from here to Chicago, let's say, I should expect certain similar behaviors.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we get updates through just NIOSH reports, so we learn from incidents,
Mm-hmm.
and that's nationwide.
Yeah.
So how can we learn from this incident so we can do it better? But it's not just us as a department.
Yeah.
We see that nationwide.
Regretfully, we've
Nationwide.
had way too many national incidences as examples.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, like everything from
Correct.
the Boston Marathon to
Right.
shootings, and there's another one this morning in California.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I don't want to be
So
bringing it
I
down.
mean, we now carry ballistic helmets and vests on all apparatus, medic units, engines, ladder trucks.
Yeah.
Because of events in other cities, states, everything.
Some in my family would say my head is already ballistic. It's just that
Yeah.
toughened up from my dad.
There you go.
Anyway, no, that's a whole other
Right.
story.
So we do minimum standard trainings basically every month, whether it's EMS, fire, minimum skills that we have to meet. So many hours per month and so many hours per year.
So
Job specific training.
as the kids
standards.
would see you guys on the streets, in the truck, or they'd stop by the firehouses, the different stations, are there certain things you want them to see to reinforce your jobs and what? So let's shift it from your mindset to the mindset of the public and the community that you serve, because preserving the standards, you know, the ideas of the kids. Hey, oh, 4th of July is coming up. You need to remember this, you know, or hey, if you see this happening. I was really pleased that those two moms stopped when they did, because that was a mindset. They got it from somewhere. Could have been from home with mom and dad, but what are some things you want them to see you guys be doing? I mean, you're dressed the same way with t-shirts and that kind of stuff, but what are some things you really want them to pick up on?
I guess back to the brain, you know, we always wear our helmet, and whenever I go into schools, I educate the kids about the safety of wearing their helmet and
bike
protecting
safety.
their brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and say, hey, we wear these helmets, and they are to protect our brain. You need to do the same whenever you're riding your bike or scooter.
Oh, that's good.
So that's one thing that we try to emphasize, like, hey, we do it. You should do it too.
That's very, very good.
I mean, during a lot of times during tours, if we have time, one of us will don all of our bunker gear. We'll start with the boots and explain why.
So bunker gear is everything you wear coming off the truck to go to a fire?
Correct. Right. But we'll include safety in that. Like, you know, I'll wear safety glasses. I'll wear a helmet.
Gotcha.
This is why I wear this. This is why I wear an air pack.
Yeah.
And then when we're fully dressed up, we want them to see us that way, to let them know it's still us.
No matter how
You
hot
don't
it
have
is.
to be right. Yeah, it's still us in there. You don't have to be afraid of us. We just look different.
Yeah,
sound
yeah,
different.
yeah.
Right.
But
But like Susie said, we always try and include those safety messages in there.
You
We
know,
do it for a reason.
so when I'm sure kids may ask you questions like this, or maybe it's just the kid in me that's going to ask you this. Are the boots steel-toed? Are you that level of detail in the safety? So even though you're in a fire with water, you got steel-toed to protect your feet. Gloves are a certain temperature resistance, I'm guessing, as well as the jacket and the pants and all that kind of stuff. So it's fire retardant, not fireproof, I'm guessing.
Right.
Even though you do walk through fire,
Right. Right.
you know, so kids shouldn't think, oh, I got my jacket on.
Right.
No, don't do that.
Right.
Don't, you know, this is my job. Don't you do that. So when you guys and gals go through the call process, and now it's not the ducklings, it's something a little bit more serious. Are there things going on in the truck as you approach that incident in your minds to get prepared? Because there's one thing about the training, and there's you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you absorb the training differently than someone else next to you. And what are some of the things you try to do to get yourself ready before you jump off that truck and get into the fray? Are there any strategies you use, any things you go through in your head?
Absolutely. You know, obviously, like we talked earlier, it just depends on what type of incident.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, me personally, this is what I do, and I'm sure that Susie and John do it too. Just start thinking ahead of, say, we're going to a fire.
Okay.
You know, just I'm listening, because over our headsets we can hear the radio, so
Yeah.
I'm listening to what's going on. If someone's there before us, I'm just, you know, what do I need to do? What do I need to grab? What kind of building are we going to? These are all the things going through my head. You know, have we been assigned a task before we got there? What am I going to need to accomplish that task?
Are you doing anything to keep your focus on at all?
Oh, absolutely.
Like this is the skill section of my show, where and skill is not like how do you fight a fire skill. That's not what I'm talking about.
Sure.
It's bridging from you got this mind, your brain is going on, the siren went off, you're in the truck now, the lights are going. That's
Sure.
different than I'm sitting here with all my gear on. And does anybody practice breathing techniques? Is there some focalization? Like, because you look at with your experience, you hear certain words
Mm-hmm.
that cue certain imeges.
So I think, like, going back to the brainstem, so now our adrenaline's kicking in,
Yeah.
we've got that cortisol dump. I think we go straight to, we're focusing on skill. When we get into the fire, a lot of times we call skip breathing, so
Mhm.
we kind of control our breathing to kind of slow that breathing down. But I think that initial, like, 3 to 5 minutes, it's like it's all skill. It's all that innate
Yeah.
stuff that's been drilled into it, that's already kind of the neural pathway is already there. So I think it's just you're doing what you've been trained to do. I think after the call is when the other stuff starts kicking in, is when you really have to
Absolutely.
start looking back and start deciding what needs to happen after that. How do you decompress from that call?
Well, and that's a good way for me to talk a little bit about the preservation of the community. Now, you're part of the community.
Yeah.
So you go on the call, which is the more tangible preservation process. You know, you're putting out a fire. You're establishing the scene so that you can collect information about what happened and how did it happen. But once you leave, you've got that
Right.
emotional dump.
So
That
I think
you've gotta
I would
hang
have
on
to
to.
say that probably 90% of firefighters operate at that high beta frequency
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's you're stressed, you've got insomnia, you're depressed, you're suicidal. So unfortunately, that's the nature of it. And if you don't do anything about it, like we have some stuff set up to kind of help us through. So we've got a peer support team that we can use
Yeah.
if things get bad. But I think there needs to be a bridge. There's a gap in there that we don't go to that peer support until it's like we need to do something. Where that's too late.
Yeah.
You know, there's this gap there. So there's things that I think individuals do, whether it's meditation, yoga, working out, running. I use essential oils. I do far infrared for detox. There's different things out there
Yeah.
that I think needs to be more utilized.
Well, when you have that gap,
Yeah.
call me,
Yeah.
because that's what
That's
that's what I do.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I've been reading a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and we see that in the field all the time, like the placebo effect and how you could actually train the brain to, like, we'll push saline into an IV, and the person will be like, oh, I feel so much
You
better
fixed
now.
me.
Yeah.
I'm cured.
And they'll be fixed before
Right.
we even get them to the hospital.
Well, for some of us, it's a more
Right.
difficult
Yeah.
cure than others. But
And I'm going into my 14th year at Westminster,
Uh-huh.
and you know, we never really had this
No, this
in
is
the
all
fire
new.
service. Some of this is new. It was
Yeah.
more of a, you know, we
Suck
we
it
get
up.
trained, we have the skill set. You
Mhm.
know, sometimes you don't have time to think about some of the stuff
Decompress.
on the way there. It's like, I got a job to do, we do it, and then you leave, and it's
yeah,
done.
and a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
it really amazed me how sophisticated Westminster has to be. When the house exploded,
Mm-hmm.
you know, with the gas situation
Right,
over
sure.
there off of 98th, and I go, whoa, that could happen almost anywhere. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how big or small the town is.
Absolutely.
And so you've got to be prepared for that.
Sure.
And then when you have those incidences and you have all that emotional imagery or the emotions that are created from the imagery, you need to have ways to prepare yourself to come down from that.
Absolutely.
And not be surprised by the feelings. So I want to make sure we emphasize preservation of the individuals in the firehouse,
Yes.
as well as the police department. I mean, you guys are working in concert with them as well as other first responders in various situations. And regretfully, we're having more than our fair share of incidences that are not very pleasant all around the country, and Westminster is not excluded in that, especially when it slops over from some other neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
one thing I always keep in mind, especially now when we have those avenues, it's like we're all just regular people.
yeah,
We all have families. We all have a life off duty.
mm-hmm.
So before not having that avenue, you would go home. You never really talked about some of the stuff. You never had that decompression. You just kept it inside. And it was kind of if you did try and take those avenues, it was almost, I guess, I don't know, frowned upon. Like
Yeah.
you were kind of looked at like,
Well, you're
"Come on, man,
admitting to
you're not being,
weakness."
yeah, you're admitting to weakness.
Yeah, it's
Right. We're all just normal people that
Yeah.
when we come to work, we help people with their emergencies. But
so. With that comment, Tony, I want to make sure I emphasize to my listeners and viewers that you say thank you, not just wave at them as they drive down in the truck, but maybe stop by the station house and say thank you to your first responders, or go to the police department and just say thank you, because that means you made an effort. They didn't have to come to you because it was a situation. Because now you know they're just regular folks that have the same kind of lives that you do outside of their fire truck in the firehouse, and say thank you. So this is my segue into being commercially active and promote product, and me for that matter. So you're listening to KUHSdenver.com, and it's Friday, and every Friday at 11 o'clock, I have the pleasure and the honor to speak on my show, 360 Performance Talk, where we talk about performance issues, and we try to do it with a voice that doesn't sound like you're coming from some really bad smoking bar. So we're here with Tony Calabrese and Susie and John. John, the person, we have to make sure he doesn't talk too much because he overshadows all of us in his conversation. But that's okay, because I like his nonverbals are just killing me. I'm looking for him for approval.
These guys are the stars.
Yeah, John is the backup. He said, in case it goes bad,
yeah,
John's coming in.
he's the one that's responsible for all of us.
So with that being said, I want to remind everybody of we're really close to the website 360 Mindset having a sample button. You can push on that and get. I'm going to go behind me so you can see that. I'm going to get my little samples, and Tony, I'll stop by the house, but this is for you. Oh, sorry, Tony, I want to give you the red one because it's fire.
All right.
I'll keep the black
All
one.
right.
All right, so this is a non-alcohol based bacterial cleanser. So in the ambulance or medical truck, this has a lotion feel to it that's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So in hospitals, they cannot have an alcohol based product near the surgical center because it's a fire hazard. Okay, and if you try this, Susie, you'll feel that it's got a definite lotion effect to it, and it doesn't, because the alcohol's not there, no cracking of the knuckles, finger, cuticles, that kind of stuff, and it has a higher bacterial component removal than Purell. So, and the other kicker for me, look at this. Put that to my belt. I got my little lanyard. I love that thing. So this is something from a performance standpoint for me. It came as a result of my first responders in the military. Interestingly enough, the alcohol-based product, when it's hit with a night vision goggles, it glows.
Nice.
So if you're on a maneuver and you got a little bottle of your hand cleaner in your pocket, guess what? They found you. This does not. So it's safer in a lot of different ways. So that's a germ block from AV Care. And you'll be finding free samples on the website at 360 Mindset, hopefully by Monday. We're trying to work out the mechanical thing. So do you agree? A little lotion feel to it, but it's got the same bacterial killing effect, actually with a few more of the, what's the bad germ that you get infections with. Yeah, that's it. Kills takes care of those. So that's AV Care and antibacterial lotion. We're now into our our third segment called mental conditioning. Now mental conditioning, as a reminder, everybody, is about environment and processes. So you want to get your brain right when you're in this environment, right? So your truck mate, he's in the in the culvert underneath the street, trying to get that elusive little duckling that doesn't want to come to the ends. Now eventually we get him in the net, but when he came out, he had he smelled one at first.
Yes.
He smelled really bad.
Yes.
And he had all these little like floozies all over the top of him because they were on the top of the pipe that was dry.
Yeah.
And he was like, getting himself touched up with that. And he said, he was smiling though. That was what got me. He stunk, but he was smiling. And that just stuck with me, that how his attention to the environment and what it was about didn't deter him from serving not only his community, but the mama duck and her babies. And he was on a mission.
Yes.
He was on a mission. He was down there. What's the big guy's name?
Sam.
Sam.
Yeah.
So Sam's down there. And you know what? Sam's head almost peeked out of the manhole.
Yeah.
He was standing
He
down.
was standing in there, and he was just like,
Yeah,
"Here you
he's
go."
just like, let's.
Oh.
He was
Yeah,
almost
he
sticking
lifted
out
the
of the-
duckling out in his hand.
Yeah.
And so the other guy, he's down there below.
That's Chris.
Chris. So Chris is down there. He's going to go in the tube, and I was marveling at the antics, and it was definitely a community project because the kids were laughing and hurting. It's great. So go to my Facebook page. I've got pictures of Tony and the crew doing their thing on there with a little bit of video as well. But that being said, so you go into these different environments, and I'm not going to say they're all totally different because, look at a box with a fire in it. That's pretty much what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a residential piece or a commercial piece or in the grasses, it's still fire in an environment. So, and you said earlier, your truck is your toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got all those tools in there. Have you ever had a situation when you go out on a fire and a tool wasn't there? Like, hey, so-and-so, go get blah, 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 blah. They go, Tony, can't seem to find what you're asking for. Has that ever, you're laughing like it's happened.
Yeah, it does happen.
Yeah.
It
There's
does.
multiple ways to
Yeah.
do things. So
Yeah.
even if you can't
Yeah,
find it,
it's-
it's like, all right,
Right.
plan
Yeah.
B.
And,
Yeah.
and luckily all the apparatus are set up the same way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I
if
was
you don't
going.
have it,
Because you
somebody
got,
else does.
yeah, because look, I watch
Yeah.
Chicago Fire.
It's
Oh yeah,
exactly
it's
like it.
same thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife asked me, she's like, "Do you guys get to just leave in the middle of the shift?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, all the time. Yep, just
Yeah.
like that.
Take your walkie with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, I'm good.
Yeah, be right back."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's processes, right? So you're in the house and you're putting all things together, and some of the, I'm sure, more junior people have that responsibility more often than the senior people. Got a big nod from John on that. So you set the stuff up, it's not there. How do the chips fall from there going back to the house? Is there somebody gets another exercise of setting up for like 4 or 5 dozen times to make sure it's right?
Usually
Or
involves with dessert or something.
Yeah, that's another dessert. Yeah.
oh yeah, food is always a factor.
Oh, yeah,
in
absolutely.
discipline.
Yeah.
I get you.
Yeah.
Well, my point is this: that environment tends to be something many times overlooked. Not in first responders, because that's if you don't look at your environment and reflect on the processes that need to fit in those environments, it's gonna be hard for you to do your job.
Right.
Now, I deal in a world that's pretty fast-paced as it relates to athletics, both in the amateur and the professional levels. And they don't necessarily have as much of a systemic process as they should, because they think, I'm just good. I'm really good athlete. I'm strong. I'm stout. So they tend to ignore many times the systems that have been set up for them. Like, you can't imagine how often we say as coaches, after a really hard practice, take your pads off or get your gear down, get in the ice water and cool yourself down, and then go from there right to the trainers. And they go, what do you think I am, a girl? Did I say that? I really said that, didn't I? I said
Really need to move out of the way.
It tells you how
Go
long,
ahead.
yeah, it tells you how old I am. But my point is that it's something less than optimal. They don't want to be less than optimal. They go, I got this, I'm good. No, you're not good because you're not doing what we say you do. You follow the processes. Right. So in your world, like in the military as well as in the police force, failure sometimes is fatal or extremely injurious to someone. Is there certain not guarantees, certain assurances you have before you leave the house that certain things are where they're supposed to be?
Yes.
You know, I mean, boom, click, like a pilot on the plane, right? They're clicking,
Yeah.
lights go on or they don't. If they don't, we don't go anywhere.
Right.
So you've got those systems, right?
Right.
Yeah, we have the basically I get checks and balances.
Yeah.
Every morning we have certain checks each position does.
Yeah.
And today, when you saw me on that call, I was acting officer.
Yeah.
Today I'm driving the engine. So the captain has a certain process he goes through. Resets are in DT. We all check our air packs. Everybody
good.
checks their own air
I like that.
I start the truck and make sure the lights are working.
Yeah.
Check the fluids, and it's every day. Doesn't matter if the crew off duty says everything's good. That way you have that reassurance.
Yeah.
I know personally, I checked it. I'm in my mind, it's good.
Are you guys measured on that? I mean, obviously, going out on a call and putting a fire out, that's a pretty quick example of success.
Mhm.
And now there's other smaller pieces to that makes it even more successful. But when you come back and you go through the checks and balances, hey, what did we use? What do we have to replenish? All that kind of stuff. Are you evaluated like points, or how do they measure each of you as successful?
No, I mean it's all everything is crew based.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, the less senior firefighters have certain tasks,
They're
but
safety.
when
I
it
know
comes
they're
to safety equipment, when it comes to safety equipment and our apparatus and stuff our life and other people's lives
Yeah.
depend on,
Yep.
it's all done as a crew. We'll come back from EMS call and you'll find us restocking and getting stuff. Or hey, did I get everything?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
come back from a fire, we're all out there washing hose together and making sure air packs and bottles are filled. I mean, you just have those checks and balances,
And I
so you're
think
ready.
We're also peer-based evaluation. So if you forget your helmet and your crew knows that you forgot your helmet, trust me, your crew's gonna come down on you pretty hard. So I
Sure.
think knowing that you have all your stuff there and everything's checked out, you do it because it's for your safety and for your crew safety. Because if you can't perform,
Yeah.
then their life is in danger too.
Isn't it obvious, Susie, when you don't have your helmet that there's patches singed on it?
A little bit.
Right.
Okay.
You're not going in,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
now everybody's life
Awesome.
is in
Yeah,
danger, right?
Sorry, you don't get to go.
Yeah.
I mean, all these checks and balances and training and everything we do is done for a reason. Because everything we go into, whether it's an EMS call, it's saving ducks,
Yep.
a fire,
Yep.
a car accident, we're going into an uncontrolled environment. So mentally, how do you prepare yourself for that?
Well,
how do you, besides knowing your equipment is ready, knowing you're properly trained, but you still have that mental aspect of you're going into something that's totally uncontrolled.
so let's take an example from our little duckling situation. So Junior didn't want to comply with everybody else. Okay,
Right.
he's back and forth, back and forth. Now,
Right.
we didn't know that was going to happen,
No,
and Sam sure as hell didn't know it was going to happen.
no, No.
And so you guys adjusted.
absolutely.
Now, I remember distinctly, but know whether I did or not, I'm just going to say it anyway.
You're not going to get me in trouble.
No, no.
Okay.
Tony looks and says, "Do we have a net?" And interestingly enough, I brought my seining net from my water feature down with me, thinking, oddly enough, I was going to be able to stick my arm all the way down. And no, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I need a net.
Yeah. So he said, "I need a net." I go,
Oh, you just threw it out.
Yeah. it's like,
interestingly
you don't have a net.
enough,
Yeah.
You had a net.
I had a net.
Yeah.
So that's an example of adapting and adjusting to what the environment was giving us,
Sure.
right? So what kind of examples do you typically, or could you give me that are typical of adjustments you guys have to make routinely when you go into it? Let's take a fire, for example.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's based on what you're getting dispatched to.
Mhm.
Sometimes you show up and it's completely different. We got dispatched last set to a call that was fully involved smoke with flames, and we show up and it's just somebody that discharged an extinguisher. So we go blaring in, and we're all, you get the adrenaline dump. You're ready to go. You're ready
Oh,
to
yeah.
fight fire,
Yeah.
and it was nothing. It wasn't a fire at all.
Yeah.
So it's just adjusting to what you actually see versus what you're actually going on.
That's a good example of, to summarize a little bit, because you got mindset set up based on the information you were given previously. You're going into then setting up your skill set, breathing technique in the truck, getting, checking whatever on your body that everything's there, going through this process on the skill side, and then mental conditioning kicks in when you get there. You jump off the truck. Oh,
It was
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
okay, what do we do now?
Right.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have you have those same steps you take. That
So-
way, when it is, you jump off the rig and it is the real deal.
Yeah, because our
You're
biggest
ready.
thing is complacency.
Yeah.
Because fire alarms take for example.
Yeah.
You become complacent, you know, and it happens.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so what are the consequences to the community for that big rise in the mental preparation, the mindset, and boom, it's this instead? Because you're gearing up to a certain expectation, and it's not there. So I'm guessing there's a little bit of cost, even if it's just time.
Well, yeah, and we're going really fast to the call, so there's accidents that could happen
Yeah,
along
the
the way.
safety issue gets higher,
Safety,
amped up.
Yeah.
So what should the community know about that? I mean, the obvious one is make sure it's right. When you're calling, you actually see flames, and there is smoke from a flame that you think you see. You know, be real, right?
A lot of people think they did see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the problem with
Yeah.
Yeah.
The public is so amped up, you know.
Yeah, so you have to have a little bit of tolerance to what the
Yeah.
call looks like, even though the
Well,
dispatcher is trying to qualify it for you.
And guard against complacency.
Yeah.
Right, here we go again.
Right.
Same thing, and then you get there, it's a completely different deal.
Or if you just, oh, it's nothing, and don't go, how do you know? Until
You guys have to have a
Go find
mindset of
out.
a concierge at a hotel.
Well,
Like-
we're
Yeah.
truly the jack of all trades, master of none. I mean,
Yeah.
'cause, any given call, we could be from here to here. You know, helping grandma off the floor to saving ducks to fighting fires
Yeah.
to resuscitating someone. I mean,
So by accident, I picked the phrase for today, the theme of serve and preserve community. That's taking on a whole larger definition because you are. I mean, you're serving and preserving, but not just in a mechanical or structural way. It's emotions. It's your own emotions. It's going to a call and it's, oh my gosh, it's less than what I expected. What are we going to do? You know, and yet you got to keep a smile on your face, be a representative of the community, preserving that attitude. Now, I've traveled a lot around the world, and it's the consistency of what we have in Westminster as far as a mindset and a understanding of the mental condition in the environment is unique. I don't see it consistently that way from community to community. Big, small, medium, it doesn't matter. And I've been into small places in Europe to large cities in the United States. And so it's my roundabout way of saying thanks again. You guys are doing a good job at all levels, not just the fire department, but your connection to the police department, your leadership at the council level. I mean, you all kind of are connected. You get together on the same platform and message. And that's my segue into the last segment we have for the show, which is performance results. And I qualify that by saying it's not the ribbon. It's not the trophy we're talking about. It's talking about the processes that you use to put all those other steps ahead of today's show together. Your mindset, your skill set, the mental conditioning, and then wrap that up with expectations. So you're managing expectations in the truck. Like you're the officer in charge of the truck. So you have expectations when you're going on that call for everybody. They should have as well from their training. So that when we jump off the truck, a performance result could be, when I jump off the truck, do I have my helmet?
Right.
There's a performance result.
Yes.
Because if I don't get to play. I don't get to jump into the fray and really make it happen. So with that, taking the ducks again as our metaphor for this, Mom was getting a little upset.
Yeah.
She I mean, you
She
gotta,
wasn't very happy with
yes, she was not having breakfast in bed. You know, it wasn't a happy day for her. Hope she has a better Sunday than she did last Saturday.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, the little guys and gals that she had around her before we got that last one, they knew exactly where they needed to be. She knew exactly what noise to make to keep them compliant. And it's really interesting. So what do you guys do when you hit a call and there's these people there? Because I noticed, I'm not going to speak the words for you, but when you were there and the communication you had with moms and the kids that were there with that situation, what are some of the things you want to make sure you standardize when you hit a call when there's the community there? Outside of the police department's going to obviously show up at some time if they have to keep crowd back, but in this case it was a small example of community control and preserving the environment there to get the results you want. What were some of the things that were going through your mind at that time? Cones was one thing.
Well, again, a lot of things. For me personally, you know, because I was, like I said, you know, when you're the one that's the officer for the day, you're responsible for everything. So the big thing was, you know, it was a small incident, but everybody's safety.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, it's like, okay, everybody's going back and forth in front of cars.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of moving pieces going on there. So that's my number one priority, making sure everybody leaves there. Just and
And how does that trickle down, Tony? I mean, is it verbal, nonverbal, both? I mean, because you guys were having conversations back and forth
Sure.
with each other,
Sure.
from down in the culvert to
Right.
you know up
Right.
on the ground and stuff.
Right.
Is there a chain of command in that communication as well? Do you look to somebody next, or does it matter who you look to?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think you know, depending on the call, a lot of times we show up and we're there for grandma, but the 6-year-old standing in the corner crying also needs our attention.
Yeah.
So it's being aware as a crew. People always ask, why do so many people show up? And it's because there's different tasks that each crew member can take over. So somebody could go tend to the 6-year-old in the corner crying, while the other crew is medically evaluating the person. And so there's different roles, and I think we do it automatically. We automatically look what needs to be done, and somebody takes in and fills in the holes.
Are there expectations that you have for the way you speak to the bystanders? Like, you know,
Absolutely.
they're the community, right?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
you got to do your job.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you want to always remain professional.
Yeah.
I mean, we are paid professionals.
Yeah.
It's a blue collar job, but we're paid professionals.
Right.
You know, and whether it's saving ducks or not, it's like you want to do a good job.
Yeah.
That's what we're there for. You know.
Well, I was impressed with, look, as an observer, I'm seeing 2 kids, middle school level kids, their mom, another mom without the kids there, and they're mingling and managing around because they weren't really restricted anyway. You didn't tell them to get out of the way.
No.
You know, and they were, you know, I've got a picture of one mom behind you with the mother hen and the ducklings.
Sure.
You know, she's helping move the ducks as you've got one in your hand, and it's really kind of cool picture actually. And it just amazed me that you relied on their common sense as human beings to assess levels of the situation. But if they would have gotten into the way or got into a place they shouldn't be, what are some of the things you're trained to do? You know, I would just say, get out of my way. No,
Right.
I would say.
You know, there's a professional way to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, trust me, if somebody would have gotten a situation, whether it was you or the kids or whoever, that it's like, okay, we probably shouldn't be doing that. But there's a professional way to come across.
So does that
and do
mean you don't have a time limit on getting the task done? Now, the fire is one thing. That's a whole different situation of timing. But with the mom and the ducklings, we don't have to be in a hurry, do we?
No, I mean, it was one of those of, okay, this isn't working and we can't stay out here for 3 hours and chase the duck around. So that's why we did what we did. It's like, all right, next idea. All right, let's change this up. I mean, at some point it's like, all right, this is not working.
Yeah, I liked how Chris was tipping the cage up so the little ducklings couldn't quite get out of the, because they wanted mom to come by.
Sure.
He had his own strategy in that particular moment.
Right.
While you and the animal management lady was, you know, trying to keep the hen from flying away and doing her thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great example of teamwork.
There's been situations, I mean, it happens, I think, pretty often, where whether it's a car accident, even on an EMS call, it's like, you're going to just go into the other room for now until we're finished in here.
Yeah.
Or even a fire, like, you know, go across the street. You're going to have to get out of the way.
We'd like to give them tasks. Like,
Right.
if you can go get their wallet and shoes and pack a bag for them, or we need you to hold this bag, you know. And
You're like a teacher.
They're doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You give them tasks to do, then they feel
Well,
included.
you mean I can't come in the operating suite or just sit there and watch you?
Absolutely.
I'm their dad. I want to see what you're doing. No.
Sure.
It's a sterile environment.
You know, I always try and keep in mind, and I'm sure everybody does, you know, it may not be an emergency to us, but they're calling us for a reason. It's an emergency to them.
Yeah.
It's a stressful point in their life. So you always have to be cognizant of that, of, you know, maybe to me it's not a big deal, but to them it's a major deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you always try and just keep that in mind and have empathy.
So so we got a couple things. I'm going to summarize real quick. Performance results is the category in our segment here. So you've got empathy. That's a result. You want to keep creating an empathic environment. Good listeners. Be good listeners so you can be empathic.
Sure.
You want to make sure that people feel like they can participate, but they're not going to be obtrusive and in the way. That's a delicate balance. I commend you guys for that. That's got to be a dance of, 1,000 veils. That's amazing. And then the other thing we talked about was getting the job done.
Sure.
With the proper tools. So the other performance expectation is you got the tools. You got everything you need so that with looking at the end in mind, as one of my mentors would say, look at the end in mind, we back away from that and create all the steps we need to create so that we get our expectations. We're managing to those expectations. So we've talked about the mindset, going in, figuring it out, the skills to maintain that mindset is at its most optimal level. And that's one of the reasons I like working with first responders and high performance people, is because their speed. When they get into it, it's fast. It's not like sitting in the office, you're at the keyboard.
Right.
Hey, anybody want to go for coffee? No, it's got a pace to it, and in those steps, you've got to get things done. There's a process within that, and then from there, we look at the environment that we're performing all this in, so that we can get the results we want. So, in my subtle way, this is KUHSdenver.com and 360 Performance Talk. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman, and I'm with Tony, Susie, and John from the Westminster Fire Department, and I brought them here today because last Saturday on Cinco de Mayo, we had a mother mallard duck and her ducklings didn't quite get to where they wanted to go. In fact, the ducklings decided, hey, you know what? There's a gap in the street. I think I'm going to take a look here. And they all dropped down into the sewer on the corner of 107th and Sheridan. And thankful to the ducklings, the fire department showed up along with some great members of the community to bring that to their attention. And we're doing it on the eve of Mother's Day, Sunday, Mother's Day, May 13th. And I hope everybody has a great Mother's Day. So in the last few minutes we have of the show, once again, I want to thank you guys for being here. And
Absolutely.
Just tell everybody a little bit. Now, Tony, you've been 14
I'm
years?
going in my 14th.
14th year.
Mhm.
Susie?
11.
11 here?
Yep.
Okay, John?
27.
27.
Yep.
He's the more experienced. Notice I didn't say mature or older.
There you go.
But I did.
More than both of us.
Yeah, that's okay. But I think it's that leadership and that experience that really makes Westminster, any fire department, great because of those kinds of balancing acts. So what are you looking for new firefighters? And if you were, not that you are, but if you were, what would be some of the characteristics you'd be looking for other than the obvious, maybe fire experience, that kind of stuff, proper training, education, that kind of stuff? What are some of those characteristics that you're looking for in a fireman or an EMS person?
Well, John does a lot of the interview process, so you probably have a good.
No, we're looking for people of high character.
Yeah.
The integrity, honest, and hardworking.
But other than the references, John, what are some of the things that they would have on their resume that would indicate to you that's present?
Well, you can,
Volunteers.
yeah,
or-
many of them are volunteers
Get
in the
into the
community,
community.
volunteers with fire departments and things
Gotcha.
like that. Plus, you look at their education and what they're doing as far as fire science, as far as EMS.
Gotcha.
You can see that whole complete picture that they're working hard trying to become a firefighter.
Awesome. So once again, I want to, in our last couple of minutes, mention that John, with his many years of great experience with the Westminster, it was all with Westminster?
Yes.
My gosh, is that common, that longevity?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
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 But I mean in firefighting in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Across the nation.
I can become a
it's-
firefighter.
That's pretty common.
That's awesome stuff. I didn't realize that. For some reason I thought, I was raised in a small farm town. So the firefighters were the farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
There was nobody at the house.
Right.
It just chain calls went out.
Mhm.
And then the fire was done and we didn't make it. So
That's the way Westminster used to be.
yeah,
When
well,
it first started.
as the department's grew.
Yeah.
So I that was in my head, right? So everybody's full time on the department.
Mhm.
That's awesome. We are so lucky. And any town and city in the country that has that kind of consistency is lucky as well. I'm going to tell people about our show coming up. We've got Jeff Jensen, one of my colleagues from North Carolina. He is one of the country's leading experts on sports leadership and sports performance. He's an author. He's a friend. We're going to have a great time talking to Jeff about leadership skills and teamwork next week. And we're gonna continue to investigate biofeedback. I don't know if you guys know this, but biofeedback is the hottest thing on the planet right now.
You know that one, John.
I do.
Getting-
Biofeedback.
Getting
That's why she's here.
getting biofeedback in a measured way. For example, well, it's on my phone. I'll put it on my phone, but there's a company called Athos that I've had on the show before, and they make sports apparel, and their sports apparel is unique in that it's all lined with sensors, so it measures all the muscle responses in the torso and lower body, and it's wireless, so it goes right into your phone. So like this morning, when I swam, all of my feedback during swimming went right into my phone, telling me about how my triceps worked, how my glutes worked, my legs, everything. I lifted weights on Saturday, did the same thing. And what's nice about that is it tells me whether what I have left or right, what I have to do more of, or be a little bit more aware of that balance. So Athos, that's biofeedback is the jam, and we're going to have some more of that coming out regarding the cognitive side of biofeedback. There's now a headband that's wireless that measures cognitive response. So let's say, for example, in a fire, if you had a headband on in your helmet, you could know wirelessly as a chief on the street where that person's at. You get respirations, you get heart rate, you'd actually get pH of their skin to know the condition of that firefighter in the fray, physically and emotionally at the time. So that's high tech. I love it. I'm a geek brain from the get-go. Okay, so we're about 3 minutes out. And as I finish up the show, I want to just ask each of you for any comments at all about good of the order, basically. What's good about being a firefighter? What's your expectations coming up? And where do you see the community helping you the most in the summer months to come? 3 questions. You, them, and us.
For me, it's just very rewarding. I mean, it's something I've always wanted to do. Every day is a different day, which I just love. It's just something new every day.
Did you have the fire truck when you were a kid? The helmet?
Maybe.
Did the Barney Rubble thing?
What if I still do?
Good. I'm gonna have to come over.
So but it's more than just that. It's the camaraderie we have in the firehouse.
That's nice.
Who else gets to go to work in their careers and work with 5 to 12 people in a house, and you live with each other.
How many
for
stations do we
48
have
hours.
in Westminster?
6.
6.
And we spend 48 hours together
Right.
straight.
That's
That's a shift. One shift is 48 hours.
like a coach with kids. I tell parents, I'm with your kids more than you are.
Right.
So you're
Right.
telling me I don't
So-
know them? Really?
Yeah, we spend a third of our lives together. I mean,
Yeah.
a third of our time every month is with each other.
That's really neat.
So it's just, I just love that part.
So what can the community be more aware of that you want them to know?
Pull to the left.
Yeah,
we
right.
pull to the right. Pull over to the right.
Yeah. Yeah, on Cinco de Mayo, you guys had some busy activity over at King Supers, and then I came home to the Ducklings,
Yeah.
and the truck was coming from King Supers, and there was somebody in front of me, and I kind of ringed over to the right, and the car in front of me just sat there.
Yeah.
And I go,
Yeah.
but there's not enough room because
Yeah.
traffic coming this way, people stop the right.
Yeah.
So yes, pull to the right, people. Great piece of
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
So Susie, what does the future have in store for you for this season? What are you looking forward to? What do you want to make sure people are aware of?
I guess coming up on the summer months, we got the kids out of school.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a youth intervention fire specialist. So I get in the community and I educate kids when they try and start fires. I try and get out there and do a lot of education in that respect. So fireworks.
Yeah.
4th of July. We don't allow fireworks in the city, so we definitely try and educate people about that. And then with the hot months, we definitely educate the elderly and try and take care of our community, make sure everybody's taken care of.
Awesome. All right, John, I'm not going to cut you off, but I'm going to play some music behind you as we end the show for today. This is Christina. Sorry, I'll talk right in a minute. Christina Aguilera and Genie in a Bottle. Just for you, John.
That's his favorite song.
So, John, you've been in the force for 20 some odd years.
Yeah.
What's left for you, John? What's the new vista? Where do you want to go?
Healthy
Yeah.
retirement.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're living it large.
Oh yeah.
All right. You got some great people around you.
No, I agree.
All right, so as we sign off with that words of wisdom from John, he's already there.
Yeah.
He's got it going on. And you're listening to KUHSdenver.com on a Friday, and it's 360 Performance Talk. I'm your host, Lowell Whiteman, with some wonderful firefighters that serve and preserve the community of Westminster. Tony, Susie, and John, thank you so much again. Have a great day and a wonderful Mother's Day.
Signing off.
Now, we're still on that camera, so you can walk around and stuff, but they still hear us there.
That's okay.
And I'm still there, so bye, everybody. What'd you think?
That was great.
Awesome.
Nice. Let me
No, get out of your way. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Come on.
This is awesome.
Thank you.